I want to know what is going to be your policy towards the US dollar.
I think Ambassador Kamel, you have posed the question to a wrong person, Zhen-Min, because first, I'm not a policymaker. And second, I'm not the insider. So I'm the same status with you. But as a layman, as a diplomat, I think this valuation of the dollar or can yuan, it's not an isolated issue. For the Chinese government, I think what is most important is to keep our currency stable. Because as a developing country, we cannot afford to sustain these ups and downs of the other countries for the economy, especially from the financial market. So until we have reached a certain level, I think Chinese government and Chinese entrepreneurs or financial authorities will be pursue very cautious policy.
Okay. You haven't quite answered my question, but I will forgive you that. Let's ask, we have a major problem between the United States and China in different understandings of human rights. In the West, the concept of human rights is the rights of individuals. In a Confucian society like China, human rights means rights of society, not of the individual. Now, that means that dialogue between a Western speaker and a Confucian Oriental speaker is virtually impossible because their fundamental definitions of human rights are so different. Now, every time that the US makes a comment on China, the comment is about human rights. President Obama has done the same thing in the town hall meeting in Shanghai. And so how do you see this developing? The fact that there is something called human rights, which is important, but your definition of human rights is different from my definition of human rights. So how can there be any conversation between you and me?
Actually, our culture is different. But human rights, we use the human concept from Europe. Human rights concept originated from France and improved or adapted in the US. It's a kind of Western, part of the Western civilization, the concept. I mean, the concept itself. Actually, in Oriental or Asia culture, I think we have a similar concepts, but not similar concepts, similar values for protecting people's rights or citizens' rights. But of course, since we joined the UN, we accepted that concept. We use that concept. So first, I think that we concept from Europe, from the States, from the United States. That's why I think you're right that there are different perceptions of human rights. For the US and Europeans, their focus is for protection of the individual. Not only individuals, but only on this minority, focus on particularly individuals. In the other parts of the world, Asia, Africa, they are focused on so-called collective rights, or rights of the society. So this is one of the differences. Second difference, I think, of course, the perception are based on the different level of economic development, or different standards. So when you talk with some British colleagues, Swedish, Nordic country colleagues, I think when I was here 20 years ago, we initiated a draft declaration on the treatment of prisoners in a detention house in a prison. That's really astonishing to some colleagues from developing countries. Because for developing countries, they're poor people, without a shelter. But for Nordic countries, they start to talk about the treatment of prisoners. They need to give them a decent living quarter with a separate toilet for each detainee. But for developing countries, maybe not only a hospital, maybe they are untested community. They use the same public toilet. So that's, I think, that this difference in economic development is one of the issues. So human rights, I think, to fairly say that for China, we always say that we're not perfect in protecting the human rights. But what is most important is we have achieved a lot in protecting the rights of our people, and we are making good progress. But in some areas, we are not reached, we are not being acknowledged by the Europeans or by the United States, only due to the difference of perception. You remember that I think when you were serving in Geneva and in New York as ambassadors, that whenever U.S. and some European countries raise the issue against some developing countries, including China, they always focus on a few cases. But for these governments, including my government, we acknowledge there are such cases. But our perception is different. Sometimes we take it as a normal criminal case. But for some European and US NGOs, they take it a human rights case. This is the perception.
Yeah, but there's no doubt. I mean, we have to admire China for the fact that if you are showing a growth rate of 8 or 10%, that means you're doubling your economy every 10 years. And in other words, you are doubling the standard of living of the people of China every 10 years, and that is the best test of human rights in the ultimate analysis. Let me move. I have two more doubts in my mind, and then we will open the floor for questions. I do want to ask you about Taiwan. The United States has a policy which I don't understand, because it has a one China policy, and yet it has a relationship with Taiwan. I don't know how it manages to do that, because this is schizophrenic policy. How do you see US policy towards, I know what is Chinese policy towards Taiwan, but what is US policy towards Taiwan, and how does it impact on you? And since you are the ambassador to the Security Council, this is one of your primary problems in the Security Council.
Not in the Security Council itself, in the UN.
No, it's a shadow on top of your head all the time.
I think, of course, we are not fully happy with the US policy, not their behavior on the issue of Taiwan, because actually, ever since the Nixon's visit, and especially during normalization of the bilateral relationship of the two countries, the fundamental principle is that U.S. must follow the one China principle, must acknowledge that there is only one China, that the people are from China, and Taiwan is part of China. So I'm fortunate that after the normalization of the diplomatic relations with China, and the Senate